This is the History of New Zealand podcast on the Eat to My Own Beat podcast network. Welcome back to the History of New Zealand podcast. This is episode number 32, Legislation of the New Zealand Land Confiscations. The preamble to the Act noted that the North Island had been subject to insurrections amongst the evil-disposed persons of the native race, to be the great injury, alarm, and intimidation of Her Majesty's peaceable subjects of both races, and involving great losses of life and expenditure of money in their suppression. It continued, many outrages upon lives and property have recently been committed, and such outrages are still threatened and of almost daily occurrence. A large number of inhabitants of several districts of the colony have entered into combinations and taken up arms with the object of attempting the extermination or expulsion of the European settlers, and are now engaged in open rebellion against Her Majesty's authority. The preamble said adequate provision should be made for the permanent protection and security of all well-disposed inhabitants of both races, for the prevention of future insurrection or rebellion, and from the establishment and maintenance of Her Majesty's authority and law and order throughout the colony. The best and most effectual means of obtaining these ends would be the introduction of sufficient number of settlers able to protect themselves and preserve the peace of the country. The Act gave the Governor power to declare as a district within the provisions of this Act any land which was owned or used by a tribe or part of a tribe which was satisfied had been engaged in rebellion against Her Majesty's authority. Since the 1st of January 1863, the Governor could set apart any land within these districts for settlement or colonization. All such land was automatically deemed to be discharged from all interest or claim of any person. Compensation would be granted those who claimed a title to it as long as they had not waged war or carried arms against the Crown or government forces, or given assistance or comfort to anyone who had done so. Claims for compensation would be considered by the compensation courts established under the Act, with the judges to be appointed by the Governor. The Governor would cause to be laid out a sufficient number of towns and farms. Contracts would be made with certain persons for the granting of land, them respectively in return for military service, and remaining land would be surveyed and laid out as towns and suburban and rural allotments. Money raised from the sale of land would be directed towards the repayment of the expenses of suppressing the present insurrection, as well as providing any compensation awarded. Thank you for listening to the History of New Zealand podcast. We're found on YouTube and anywhere else you could find your normal podcasts. Please like, comment, and subscribe, or find us at www.eattomyownbeat.com.